If you're preparing for the Databricks Certified Data Analyst Associate exam, in this video, we're going to show you 5 practice questions just to test where you're at. So let's see how many you can get right. So we'll have a look at 5 sample questions from one of these practice tests of my Udemy course, which you can see in the description of this video. But there are 2 modes here. There's practice mode and exam mode. So exam mode essentially simulates the actual test. So it's 1.5 hours and there's 45 questions and the passing score is 70%. Or there's just practice mode where you can just answer the questions in a low stakes environment and review each answer before you move on. Okay, so let's have a look at the second one here in practice mode. So a data analyst needs to join data from a Delta table stored in Unity Catalog with a table in an external PostgreSQL database in a single query. Which feature must be configured in the Databricks workspace to enable this? Okay, so the key phrase here is a single SQL query, and this would also imply no data movement. So let's look at the options here. We have a Lakehouse Federation connection registered in Unity Catalog that defines the external database as a foreign catalog. Then we have a Delta sharing endpoint that replicates the PostgreSQL table into a Delta format before the query runs. Then we have a SQL warehouse configured with a JDBC driver pointing to the PostgreSQL instance. And then we have an autoloader pipeline that continuously ingests the PostgreSQL table into a bronze Delta table. Okay, so the Delta sharing option would be a common distractor. Delta sharing is used to share data externally, but it's not designed for querying external databases like PostgreSQL inside Databricks. So next we have the SQL warehouse with a JDBC driver, which sounds plausible, but SQL warehouses are just compute. They don't manage external database connections like that, and they won't automatically expose PostgreSQL tables as queryable objects. And next we have autoloader, which is for ingesting file-based data, things like JSON or CSV from cloud storage. It's not meant for relational databases. And more importantly, it would require moving the data into Delta first. Okay, so that leaves us with the first option here, which is Lakehouse Federation. And this is exactly what we need. Lakehouse Federation allows you to register an external database inside Unity Catalog as a foreign catalog. And once that's set up, you can query those external tables just like any other table and even join them with Delta tables in a single query. So that'll be our answer. We can check answer, and then you will also just get some explanations as you work through them. And you can even explain this answer further with Udemy's AI features. But when you scroll down to the bottom, you do also just get an overall explanation and the domain of what it covers. Okay, so let's look at another example. Which of the following correctly describes how to embed a Databricks AI/BI dashboard in an external web application so that users can view it without a Databricks account? Okay, so the first answer here is the correct one, where we publish the dashboard and use the generated embed URL or iframe code in the external application. Viewers access the live dashboard through the embed without requiring a Databricks login. So let's just check that answer. Yep, we can see it's correct. We're getting our explanation. The published dashboard is accessible to viewers without requiring a Databricks account, providing live interactive access to the current data. And then it also just explains why the other answers are incorrect. All right, so next is, what is the purpose of the sample questions feature in a Genie space and how should it be configured for best results? So first, think of the user experience. When someone opens a Genie space, they may not know what to ask or how to phrase their questions. And that's where sample questions come in. So let's have a look at the options here. Sample questions are pre-executed queries whose results are cached so that common questions return answers instantly without executing against the live data. Sample questions are example natural language questions defined by the Genie Space Administrator that are displayed to users when they open the space, helping them understand what questions the space can answer. So that would be the correct answer here. And let's check the answer. You can see, and that just explains why that first one wasn't correct. So they're not a caching mechanism. They're example natural language questions displayed to users to guide them on how to interact with the Genie space. Okay, and again, we just get a similar overall explanation. Okay, and we could just skip ahead to another question. A data analyst queries a delta table and receives results that appear to be missing recent updates that were confirmed as committed by another team. What is the most likely explanation? Okay, and if you understand what caching is, you can see here we have an option here where the analyst may be reading a cached query result that was generated before the recent updates were committed. So this is why it's important that the analyst should clear the result cache or rerun the query with a forced refresh to retrieve the latest data. And then if we just check that answer, we do get the correct option, just tells us why, and also why the other answers are incorrect. All right, so let's look at one more example. So a data analyst needs to calculate the approximate number of distinct customers who made a purchase in the last quarter from a table containing 500 million rows. So we know that this is a huge table, and it's important that it says that they only need the approximate number of distinct customers, and the query should complete in seconds rather than minutes. So if you're familiar with approx count distinct, that's exactly what it's for. It gives you a fast estimate of how many unique values there are in a large table like this without doing the expensive full distinct count. So this is why it can run in seconds, even on hundreds of millions of rows. Okay, so let's just check this answer, and we do get that explanation. It uses this hyperlog algorithm to estimate the number of distinct values. And there is a small error rate, which is typically around 5%. Okay, but if you are interested in getting access to all 5 of those practice exams, please do just check out the link in the description. You'll see the course here on Udemy. And I do also have another one which actually prepares you for the exam by their video tutorials. There's 6 hours on-demand video, and it's all actually taught within Databricks using the free Databricks edition. So it's all hands-on, which is a good way to learn, I think. And you can check out the reviews at the bottom here if you are thinking about purchasing it. Okay, so thank you for watching, and if you did like the video, please like and subscribe.